You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun, to believe. Third year bonus.
Sometimes I like to come in there and just talk over myself. That is a previous version of me from, nearly 11 years ago. Here, oh my God, how am I not? See, I'm not I don't really. Hello. Well, first of all, before we get into this, welcome to the program. This is Me and Paranormal You. This is your host, Ryan Singer. This is a third-year bonus. This is a solo episode. In case you've never heard, where we're going to be having a stream of consciousness discussion about all things paranormal, whatever is in the, whatever's been right in front of my face, for the last few days, probably is what we're going to get into. So welcome to the, obviously there's been so much breaking news about UFOs, UAPs, NHI craft, etc. What to believe, who to listen to, how to find time to consume it all, what books also to be reading simultaneously while you're digging into the FBI document archives from Freedom of Information requests, PDFs from Substacks, and other sources of information. It's overwhelming at times. We're here to help you sift through it. Here's what I'm going to do next week. There's a new documentary getting ready to drop. I am contemplating, as a celebration of 11 years, which is a magic number, and all of the breaking news, I am contemplating maybe going daily next week. I'm going to look at my calendar right now before I make such an outlandish claim that I would be putting up 5+ programs in 1 week, when sometimes you're like, well, Brian, sometimes you don't even get 2 out, and sometimes those are late. And you're right. And this one's a day late, but it's not $1 short, I'll tell you that. So next week we are looking at, the anniversary is on Friday. So, I'm going to be, the first week of February, it looks like I've got, it does. It looks like I've got the ability to maybe potentially, we're going to go deep diving maybe next week. So to celebrate, we're going to kick off year 12 with 5 episodes in 1 week. You're probably thinking to yourself, Ryan, do you realize what you're saying? And I actually, I don't, quite frankly. But now I've already distracted myself out of understanding what I was going to say at the very, very beginning of this before I get into that. Oh, who to believe, what to believe, where to go. Oh, you know what? Pause real quick. I'm going to go back and listen. Okay, I believe I have jostled my memory by listening to it, even though I still don't, I can't be 100% sure. I was talking about how we're coming on the 11-year anniversary, and like my old voice, I'm not an anniversary guy. That's not to say that I don't appreciate, enjoy, and experience elation when celebration takes place, because I do, and I do think things should be celebrated. And I love the, it's an arbitrary, to a certain degree, it's arbitrary, right? A yearly celebration, even though the seasons are the seasons, and the rotation of the earth around the sun as it rotates within itself, as we travel, as we hurtle through space-time. There is something to be said about the cyclical nature of the seasons, of life, of death, of growth, of decay. So in that way, I do appreciate, and it's beautiful. It really is beautiful to celebrate anniversaries and even birthdays and celebrations and death days and things like that. Now, I don't really celebrate my birthday. I've never been a person who makes a big deal out of their own birthday. There are people who do, and that's fine. And I love that for them. It's never been something I have done. Maybe because when I was a kid, I loved my birthday, and then I don't know, maybe there was some disappointment around a birthday or two when I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm not saying for sure that's what happened. But for whatever reason, the older I got, the less I was concerned with celebrating my birthday, even though, I love my birthday. I'm not going to act like I don't. Now, I'm oftentimes working on my birthday, and I believe this year, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly, which I'll be clicking into the month of July right now. July 9th is my birthday. That's a Wednesday this year, so I don't know if I'll be working, but chances are I may be on stage performing that night. Assuredly the week after. I mean, I will be at Go Bananas Comedy Club the 17th through the 20th of July. And then I'll be at the Comedy Attic in Bloomington, Indiana, the 25th and 26th. I've booked some Arkansas dates, actually. I did Arkansas. I've got more than a handful of dates in Arkansas, the 20th and 21st of June, as well as the 26th, 27th, and 28th of June. I will be performing in Arkansas. More information on that will be on my website soon, as I prepare to film a comedy special in early August. I believe we're shooting for Indianapolis, Indiana, is where we're going to try to be shooting that. So, nonetheless, I don't celebrate, right? And so celebrations, anniversaries, etc., they sneak up on me unexpectedly, which is the case here. With 11 years of the Mindcast, of me and Paranormal You, almost 800 episodes, 11 years worth, and I'm like, oh shit, what day is it? And it's 3 days away, and it kind of slipped my mind. So I'm not that guy who, marks it on my calendar and celebrates. And I've been in trouble for missing people's birthdays, and that is 100% expected, I guess, from a guy who doesn't really celebrate his own birthday. And you could argue that just because you don't celebrate your own birthday doesn't mean you shouldn't prioritize remembering other people's birthdays. 100% accurate. I take full accountability for this. I have a Google Calendar where I have listed most of the people in my life. As long as I know the exact date of their birthday, I'll put it on there so I can hopefully have a reminder. But I have forgotten birthdays as recently as this past year, and it's cost me dearly with, hurt feelings, etc. And, I've paid the cost for that. All I can do is try to do better, make an effort to be better at remembering other people's birthdays. Even, like I said, if I don't make a big deal, I'm making a big deal out of my birthday, it feels like, by talking about how I never make a big deal out of it. It's just like a snake pooping its own head. Anyway, we've got a lot to get to, I suppose, right? I want to talk a little bit about fear and how fear is the great equalizer, the great crippler, when it comes to wanting to share your paranormal experience, whether it is a spontaneous paranormal experience, an SPE, or one you sought by going on an investigation or doing an expedition or just being at the house, doing a Ouija board or something like that, right? Seeking the unknown. And did something answer the phone when you were seeking? When you were calling the unknown, did they answer the phone? And did it scare the ever-living hell out of you? Well, it's okay to admit that. And it's okay to experience fear and trepidation when considering doing it again. Trust me, I understand that. I saw my therapist earlier this afternoon. His name is Brian. I love Brian. I see Brian or talk to Brian on the phone almost every week, with some exceptions when I'm doing traveling. I sought Brian out, if you don't know the story, because of a terrifying experience I had on a paranormal expedition in Florida in 2019. He specializes in PTSD, amongst other things, and he has helped me tremendously to move past the fear and specifically the overall anxiety level of my entire life was exacerbated to such a high degree after that experience. Everywhere I went, I was kind of scared. It was just my baseline after that experience. And then the pandemic happened. Many of us lost our minds a bit in various different ways. The universe threw the ultimate pop quiz at us during that time. And, my anxiety levels were through the roof after my experience in Florida. And I have to say that they've never fully returned to where they were previously. I'm just a different person now, right? So, and fear controlled me for a while after that. And it's a real shame when we let fear take the wheel and drive to the destinations it chooses, because those destinations typically are riddled with anxiety, remorse, and ultimately the destination will be regret when we realize how much we've given up willingly to a certain degree by succumbing to fear itself. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about how to overcome fear, specifically of the paranormal and some other things when we get back after this short break. I just want to remind you, for $3 a month, you can never have to hear another commercial again on any of these episodes at patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 a month, no more commercials. Wouldn't that be nice? But in the meantime, here's some commercial breaks, because I'm obligated to do so, for the hosting platform that I'm on, which, Spreaker is pretty great. We're happy to be here. We'll be right back. And we're back. Hey, this is your buddy Ryan Singer. This is me at Paranormal U doing a solo episode. We're talking a little bit about fear here today, and that's to start off the program. Fear that happens because of paranormal experiences. What can we do to move past that fear? How do we do it? Well, I'll tell you one thing, and this is one thing I know for damn certain. Talking about it is the most important part. Talking about it with someone you trust, a friend, a medical professional, a family member, I don't know, even maybe a stranger on the internet, on a Reddit thread or something. I'm sure I don't get on Reddit ever, hardly, unless someone sends me a link and I go over there and I remember, oh yeah, Reddit's a thing. So there is, a huge paranormal conversation community happening on Reddit. Go over there and, there will be people I think that you'll find are kind and willing to listen. Now, there's also other ideas. It has been suggested to me through friends of mine that, and this was not my idea. My dear friend, who is no longer with us, Claudia Ackley, who you may remember from, she's been on the podcast at least once or twice. Talking about a Sasquatch experience, specifically the first time with her two young daughters in Lake Arrowhead area of California up in the mountains, and the trauma that caused. And Claudia wanted to have a online community, like a PTSD community, where people could share their experiences and not be judged. And I think that is such a great idea. And that is one of the ways we can move through fear, is by sharing our honest feelings and recollections about the experiences that have caused fear. Now, I think that's a great idea, and it is actually a project that I have on my agenda to try to get going. And now I do have to do a little more research, because I haven't had the time quite yet to get in there and really root around and see if there is a specific group or groups that have already been started for that are actually up and running and people are participating in, have access to, with certain rules and regulations. Now, I would be happy to be one of the people who can lend an ear to this. Because of my experience, I know what it's like. Now, if you don't have friends, because, we talk about this a lot, or I talk about this a lot, that we have shared paranormal experiences oftentimes, and we don't talk about those experiences with the people that were there and who experienced them with us. I don't understand why this is part of the phenomena, but it is. I can speak directly to this when it comes to the woman who could shapeshift. We barely spoke about it after the event happened. It seems crazy. I know it does seem crazy, but it's just the nature of the way things happen. Now, I should say that I went on a deep dive. I promised that I would, and I did. I did my damnedest, trying to research and understand, trying to find any information. So it's not like we never spoke of it, because we did, in fact. But this was before the internet was the internet, and you couldn't really find anything about it anywhere on the internet. Now, I should have utilized maybe a library card a little better, or in my microfiche searching through the catalog skills. I know how to use the Dewey Decimal System. I know. I was just at the library today writing and working, and one of my favorite libraries in the world, Burbank Public Library in beautiful Burbank, California, by where I used to live for years. A wonderful library. I think, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, I read something on here that I wrote and about seeing future me. And I saw him there again today. So the guy who looks just like I think I probably will look in 25 years, he was there again. And we made eye contact, and I will tell you what, there was a knowing nod. My eyes, I didn't stare deeply into my own eyes because just in case I'm wrong about this, I don't want this guy to be like, this guy is making uncomfortable eye contact with me, please have him removed. And I wouldn't be able to go back to one of my favorite places that I clearly am allowed to go back to because I'm still there 25 years later, but you get it. I don't want to fuck up the time continuum, by being too much of a weirdo to myself, who would fully embrace and understand exactly what I'm going through because he went through it 25 years earlier on his timeline. You get it. So one of the ways we can move through fear and this anxiety is by just communicating our story, sharing our story to someone who has sympathy and someone who even has, sprinkling some empathy there as well. But sympathy, I think, is the big one here in this case. And just willing to listen with non-judgment. That's very, very important when it comes to a traumatizing paranormal experience, when we don't feel like we have to bottle it inside and feel shame. When we have shame, it ruins our game, right? The game of life. Fear will cripple us, and shame will make it impossible for us to want to show our faces anywhere and to peek out and think maybe we could find a trusting or a friendly face, an open ear to share the unbelievable, and to not feel silly about it. Because we know we're not complete idiots. We know that when it comes to trauma, you look at, the situation that has unfolded since last year in Gaza and what the Palestinians have been through. And you think to yourself, oh, I'm supposed to seek help for having a ghost scare the hell out of me when all of this awful, horrific stuff that these people have been through, and some of them might not even have someone they can talk to or someone that can help them. I get it. This isn't a comparison contest. That's one thing that we have to remove from the equation. This idea that our trauma or our experience isn't worthy of being heard or listened to on a scale of severity, on a severity scale. That anyone who has experienced real trauma they don't get into the matching game. It's not a contest. Anyone who has been through a difficult time in their life, which everyone has, every single person listening to this has been through a very difficult, trying time in their life. And every single one of us agrees that we would want anyone else who is going through a difficult time, who is experiencing hardship, to get help. We would want them to get help, to have someone they could talk to, someone who would listen to them. We all want that for everyone else. Every single person wants that for everyone else. It's not a comparison. You got to get out of that game. You can't let that come into the equation. Okay, that is something that we cannot consider as something that we can't let that prohibit us. But that is part of the shame thing. Oh, I'm ashamed of my fear because it's not justified enough in comparison to the severity of other people's trauma that has caused them fear or anxiety. We can't live like that. You don't have to do anything. I was getting ready to say you have to, but it's not what this is about. Communication, sharing the experience, not bottling up. That is the first step, and overcoming it and moving forward. And then maybe then we can start having a conversation about confronting the thing itself to truly move through and pass that fear. We're going to be right back. This is another quick little commercial break. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. Be a free patron. Doesn't cost you a dime. You could be a free patron. Go to the Patreon page, sign up for free. I'd love to have you over there. Well, we'll be right back. And I'm back. I hope you're back as well. We're talking about fear that is caused from the unexplainable and how important it is to talk about it, to even have a chance to move through it. I want to move on to the next phase of that, which is, for me, trying to wrap your brain around it, trying to, first of all, accept that what you experienced was real, and at the very least, your reaction to the event was real, and it has caused distress or anxiety, trauma in your life. That is real. And it doesn't matter if the ghost was real or the Bigfoot was real or the alien UFO abduction was real. What matters is you believe it was, and the consequences of whatever it was that had happened are very real, and they are playing out in real time in your life. Once you remove the need for knowing exactly what it was, then you can get into the work, I suppose. Right. Now, again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just telling you, in my experience, what has worked for me, seemingly has worked for me. Because then you can, get into the work of maybe understanding these feelings when they arise, other things that are triggering the same exact sensation. Anytime that you feel threatened, unsafe, or that's something that might cause instability in your life. For me, it triggers all those feelings of anxiety again, and I'm overcome, and it's practically crippling. And it makes me want to completely shut down and just hide away. I can't do that. That's not how I can live my life. You can't let fear be in control. I can't let fear be in control of my life. And so in the work with my therapist, we had talked, and at one point he had said, maybe someday you'll have to probably go back to truly confront this fear and understand that you will be okay and you are safe. And I told him, I was like, I hate the fact that you just said that, and I will never go back to this place. And having said that I will never go back, I know that now I must. And here we are, years later. I'm going back again here in about 4 weeks for another 5-6 nights. And if you would have told me that in 2019, that I'd been back there, 5 or 6 times or whatever for almost a full week, I would have thought you crazy. I would have bet every dollar in my bank account, which, $17, I would have bet you that I'd never go back. And it might not, $17 might not sound like a lot to you, but hey, if it's all you got, it's a lot. Confronting that fear can be difficult. Now, will I ever just sleep outside in a tent on that property alone? Now, is that confronting fear, or is that just trying to be a tough guy? There seems to be a difference between those two. My sense is that you don't need to be like, hey, not only will I confront this fear, but I'll show you I'll show you who's the boss. I am not the boss. I am not the boss of paranormal phenomena, right? So if you're having or have had a terrifying paranormal experience, my heart goes out to you. And if you would like to discuss it, you can reach out to me and I can do my damnedest to either try to connect you with someone else who's had a similar experience, try to find some time to communicate with you and correspond with you about your experience and try to make you feel less alone about it. I think that's important. We can do that for each other, and I think it's important. When it comes to being shamed for believing in the woo-woo or, the weird or the supernatural, the mystical, even the esoteric, the powers are strong. They have mighty strength in materialism. And being made to feel like a ridiculous person, you hear this phrase a lot, not a serious person. We need to talk to someone who's serious. There's this authority complex, right? And people love it. I mean, you see it in all paranormal TV shows. It works on all of us, myself included. I forget what the phenomenon is, something authority something, right? But authority bias or whatever it is. If someone is a former cop or they're a military or a pilot or something like that, we believe their stories more because they're more of a serious person. They wouldn't make something like this up because look what they've done for their life. They're a serious person as opposed to anybody else who maybe a baker, a teacher. Well, a teacher might have a little bit of that authority too associated with them, or a writer or an actor, a painter, a musician, the artsy, just an art man, you're in the arts, man. Hey, man. Oh, sorry, Todd, I didn't mean to do a voice that was similar. Yeah, man, I don't, but it's all right, man. People think that, man. Yeah, they do, Todd, and it's unfortunate, but Todd, if you were a cop, what would you sound like? Hey, man, put your hands up, man. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Oh, wow, you actually kind of knew some of it. You have the right to remain silent, man. That's the part I forgot that goes in front of that. Okay, man? Okay. But you're talking, so you don't want to be silent. Well, no, we're just doing a thing. We're doing a bit here. Hey, man, anything you say can and will be used against you. Right, in a court of law, I get it. That's right, man. That's right. You have the right to an attorney, man. Wait, you're still going with it? If you can't afford one will be appointed to you. How do you know all this? I just watched 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street recently because I've never seen those movies, man. I like Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum is actually one of my favorite actors. Yeah, man, he's really funny and he can dance, man. Magic Mike 2, man. Can't wait to see Magic Mike 3. A lot of people, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people would be like, you're a man, you can't just watch Magic Mike by yourself and really enjoy it. And I say to them, yes, I can. That's right. That's exactly what I say to them. Yes, I can. Because Channing Tatum, what is it, Hail Caesar, the movie, like George Clooney's in it? He's incredible in that movie. I mean, he's doing a full-on, like, classic Hollywood musical number with the dancing and everything as the sailor. I think he's in the Navy. Anyway, if you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend it, only for Channing Tatum, if only for Channing Tatum's performance in that movie. Yeah, man, he's one of my top 5, man. Oh, he's not even, I thought he would have been top 3 the way you're talking. Hey, man, I love everybody, man, and just, I have a top 5 just like everybody, man. Doesn't mean I don't love people who are number 17. That's a good point, Todd. That's a good point. What were we talking about? Oh, authority bias or whatever. I got really derailed there by Todd, but in a good way, Todd. So, what are you doing? Oh, twice baked macaroni. Okay, yeah, get back to cooking. Just make sure you turn the oven off. So nope. Nigel's trying to chime in. I'm not going to let him. We're going to keep moving forward. So, yeah, you can reach out. You can find me on, Instagram. I'm on Blue Sky. If you look up The Idealist, that should be me, theidealist.bluesky.com, or whatever the handles on Blue Sky are. I don't know how much longer I'll be on the Meta platforms, Facebook and Instagram, but I'm over there at Rising. You can also find me on Blue Sky, which, who knows? I guess that's maybe where I'll live. I'm just so glad to be. I'm off Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. If you used to follow me on there, I'm off. So I don't even know how to log in to cancel the other accounts. I think me and Paranormal U has their own Twitter, but I don't even know how to get into it anymore. So anyway, we're going to be right back. We're going to take a short break, and maybe Todd will enlighten us a little bit more about life after having the hell scared out of you on a paranormal experience, and how it can actually, possibly, maybe even, be the best thing that ever happened to you, man. That's right, Todd. How'd you know I was going to say that? Because me and you are the same, man. I mean, I do feel like we're the same in many ways. We're going to be right back. Patreon.com/RyanSinger. No commercials. We'll be right back after this short break. There we go. I had to lube up the flavor throat, the throat tube. Flavor hole. That is one of my favorite comedians of all time, Troy Baxley. He calls his mouth his throat the flavor hole. Hilarious. Flavor hole. Okay, anyway. I was just chatting with my buddy Jason about Troy earlier today. He's just one of the funniest sounding people, the way he does his bits. Anyway, if you're in the Denver area, you were probably lucky enough to see Troy Baxley perform. I don't know if he's performing currently, but I hope you had the chance if you were up in that area. So Todd and I were talking about how, these traumatic experiences that we experience in the paranormal, and trust me, I get it, the shame part. I feel silly even kind of having a serious discussion about the trauma we experienced in a paranormal experience. Like, that's the voice, right? That's the damn voice in the head that's trying to shame us out of like having an open discussion about these things. Like, oh, you had a traumatic experience in the paranormal. Hey, man, that's not cool to talk like that. Okay. Who was that guy? Right? A bully, like Billy the paranormal bully. Interdimensional creature of some kind scared the hell out of you. Oh, poor you. Hey, man, you kind of sound like a ghost, though. It's like, you know what I mean? Maybe that's Roast Ghost, dude. There's this character I want to do called Roast Ghost. You just kind of wake up and there's this ghost sitting at the end of your bed. It just starts roasting you. Like, oh, look at you, I just woke up. Oh, I don't know where I am. I'm scared because there's a ghost at the end of my bed. Oh, I'm a big pussy. Hey, Roast Ghost, settle down. You weren't invited to this conversation. Anyway, we got the Roast Ghost voice in our head. Anytime even I'm like, saying this, like, if you've had a traumatic paranormal experience, I have. And see, Rose Ghost is in there like, oh, have you? Oh, I bet it was so scary. Rose Ghost, you need to get effed right now, okay? That's the point of this. I mean, it exists. Rose Ghost exists. This bully voice exists in all of us. Maybe it doesn't exist in you, and if it doesn't, I'm happy to hear that, and I'm thrilled that it doesn't, because it shouldn't exist in any of us. The bully voice is a minion for materialism, right? And for the current paradigm of non-belief, of disempowerment, of fear, of the magicless, sterile world they want us to believe is real. Now, I don't think it's a giant conspiracy, right? It's just a belief system that people have been raised in and taught, and they fall in line with it. And we all do, unless something breaks us free, either our own imagination or our experience. Something must rattle the chains and break the cuffs off our wrists to finally be free from that. I don't know how it happens. We try to do it. Maybe we put out 800 podcast episodes in the hopes that at least, a few more people might shuffle on over to the side of the whimsical world that is reality. And if we were able to even get those few, we count ourselves lucky. And I was going to say victorious, but it's not a war. It's not a battle. It's a conversation. And if we can shift the way someone else's mind is already open, because let's be honest, everybody has an open mind. Even if their mind is open to the things that we think are completely wrong, it's still open. It's just what's getting poured in. And what are the ingredients that get mixed into their open mind that make them believe the things they do? You see that playing itself out in this country. That a rich psychopath could actually be Batman, right? People believe that. People believe that the president is like Bruce Wayne is Batman, and that RFK should be in charge of everyone's health, and they think this is a good idea, right? It's because they have an open mind, and the things that got poured in there have created that viewpoint. No, just because I happen to think that the things that were poured in there were pure propaganda doesn't mean that they do. Because they would think that I'm a propaganda brainwashed snowflake in a sanctuary city, et cetera, et cetera. But it should be a conversation, not a war, not a battle. But the bully is there. The bully voice is there, even in my mind. Once you move past the bully voice, now you can get into maybe an honest discussion about getting practical, about how you're going to move forward. And once you're able to get to that point, which doesn't need to be, shouldn't be, isn't going to be immediately after an experience, it's okay to let yourself feel something. I was president of the Scaredy Cat Club for quite a long time. I wouldn't hike in the daytime after my experience. Couldn't sleep with my lights out for probably close to a year. Still can't sleep with the lights out when I'm at their house in Florida when I visit. Even now. The only time I can sleep with the lights out is if there's someone else sharing the room with me. If I am alone at the location in Florida, which I've been to a bunch, if I'm alone, I still need a light on. I still need a light on in the room. So, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to feel things. We don't need to shame ourselves for that. We just do our best to keep and continue to work through them. Does everyone need to confront their paranormal fear, that, the anxiety and the trauma that they experienced? I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's the case. Different people have different needs and different procedures for overcoming anxiety and fear, etc. I have to. I'm the kind of person who has to go face to face with the beast that scared the shit out of me. That's just something I know about myself. I was scared to death to ever try DMT. That's why I knew I had to smoke it, because it terrified me to my core. So I knew I had to try it. Anytime something scares me beyond all else, I know I'm going to have to try it. I will jump out of an airplane at some point. Why? Because it is absolutely the last thing in the world I want to do. Because it scares me. My brother would say, avoid avoidable deaths. He's been saying that for decades. Hey, you just got to avoid avoidable deaths. And he has jumped out of an airplane, but he came up with his avoid avoidable deaths theory after jumping out of an airplane, most certainly, or he never would have jumped out of an airplane. Just the courage it takes for anyone listening to this who has skydived. My hat off to you. My windblown hat off to you for jumping out of an airplane. Holy smokes. But how thrilling, how exhilarating it must be flying through the sky, not knowing if you will live or if you'll die. I don't need that to juice me up to feel good and be in the moment of my life, okay? But I doubt there are many things in this world that will make you feel more alive in the moment than when you're hurtling through the air towards the earth and most certain death if that parachute doesn't open. What else could make you be aware of exactly where you are, what you're doing, and how long something is lasting than falling towards the earth from 10,000 feet up or however high it is that you jump out of an airplane? That, my friends, is called being thrust, being yanked into the moment of now. There's other things that can also do that for us. Some of them are actually quite enjoyable. Some of them are terrifying. When you experience a paranormal event that scares everything out of you, that is one of those moments. Time stands still. It crawls. It becomes so sloth-like, and you're overcome with abject terror. And the clock stops. And you just want the moment to be gone. But it feels like it lasts forever. There's other things that are enjoyable. Maybe you're enjoying a cup of Cold Stone ice cream, vanilla with peanut butter cups. I'm not saying that because I had that today, but I did have that today. Having lunch with one of my best buddies, Lisa Best, the brilliant comedian and writer. She wanted a Cold Stone. Who am I to say no to having Cold Stone? But eating that ice cream, time froze, and the deliciousness of that ice cream thrust me into the moment, and time crawled. It stopped. It was wonderful. It was amazing. Now, there's obviously lots of other things as well that we could mention here, but I think you get the point. So, do you need to confront the fear? And how do you do it? Well, safety first is the most important thing when it comes to the confrontation of the fear that has been having way too much influence over your life. That sounds like the music. We're going to do another commercial break. We're going to be right back after this short break. Okay, we're back. We're talking about overcoming paranormal fear. And fear is such a large part of the conversation today. When it comes to the UFO, UAP disclosure, the false flag events that apparently have been planned to stage an alien invasion, the idea that UFOs will cause harm to us if we get too close to them, which in fact they are just the man-made UFOs, the replicas of the off-world craft. They're the ones doing that because we can't recreate their non-gravity energy source, so we use nuclear energy for that and radiation poisoning as a result, etc., etc. That's not necessarily the fear we're talking about, but it is interesting that fear is a huge component, right, of propaganda, mind control, disempowerment. Now, we need to re-empower ourselves after that power has been taken from us because of something that has scared us so desperately that we have surrendered our power. And surrender sounds like a word where you're kind of agreeing to give up something. And I want to be careful not to let that be confused for what's happening here. You're not, but we are active participants oftentimes in surrendering our power. And sometimes we do it willingly for whatever reason. Maybe we want the drug, right, that we have found ourselves drawn to or even addicted to, and we surrender our power to have more of that, whether it's sugar, alcohol, cocaine, etc., right, or whatever else. We surrender our power to have relationships. We surrender our power for financial gain. There's all kinds of ways you can surrender power. One of those ways is by participating in an investigation that you should know full well might scare the hell out of you. And when it does, you've become a willing participant, right, in the surrendering of the power, and to a certain degree. Nobody signs up to have their life altered in a dramatically negative fashion. That's not what anyone's doing it for. The reason people are doing paranormal investigations for the most part, and I can't speak for everyone, but I will try to here, is because of curiosity. The inevitability of curiosity, if you do it long enough, will lead to an experience, I believe. We've talked about this stage, the inevitability of curiosity and the different ways and how it's a loop. It doesn't matter where you start in that loop, you will come around to all the other things eventually if you're at it long enough. So, so in this way, we have our power taken from us more than we willingly surrender it. And most people don't willingly surrender their power anyway, regardless of whether we're talking about addiction, financial gain, or otherwise. It's very, very rare that someone will willingly and consciously surrender power in such a dramatic way, unless it is of a great sacrifice for the betterment of someone else. That is something that is definitely possible and can be looked at as an act of great sacrifice. When you sacrifice yourself for someone else, that is willingly surrendering whatever power you have in the moment, or I think you get it. Now that can be a beautiful thing to do for people. And I think if I could do that, I hope I would. If given the opportunity to save someone else, would I surrender myself? Would I surrender my power in that way? I certainly hope I would do that. I can't say for certain because I've been lucky enough to never been in the situation where I have to jump in front of someone who might have a bullet headed their way or, something like that. A very dramatic example, yes. But how do you reclaim your power, confront your fear, but do it in a safe way? That is the key to this, I believe. Set and setting. Very similar to how to ensure a positive psychedelic experience. I was in Joshua Tree over the weekend. One of my best buddies had a bachelor party there. About 8 or 9 of us were out in the desert for a couple days, 2.5 days. And 2 full days, whatever it was. And we had a great time out in Joshua Tree. We left right before, the day after we left, there was a huge snowstorm there, which was crazy, right? Luckily, Los Angeles had a bunch of rain while we were gone. Hopefully, if it happens again, there won't be a ton of mudslides. That's the last thing people need. But anywho, we were out there. Set and setting is often referenced, and I think Terrence McKenna might have been the person who first mentioned set and setting to ensure a good psychedelic trip, is to have control over set and setting. You need to be comfortable with where you are and who you're around, and where you have to be comfortable in your surroundings and with who are surrounding you. And that's very important for a psychedelic experiment or experience. And, there was mushrooms involved over this weekend when we went to Joshua Tree. Now, I can't say I blasted off because I didn't. I drove us to the park. I was one of the people who had to drive us to the park. So, safety first. And then we were there for hours, right? So it wasn't a situation where I felt and I don't drive intoxicated. That's just not something that I do. So rest assured, safety was paramount on our trip. Oh man, so much cool stuff at Joshua Tree, just on the ground. It's hard to make 5 steps without being just amazed by something else magical, beautiful, wondrous, unbelievably beautiful. Oh, I'm such a lizard. You knew I was going to have a good time in Joshua Tree. So, set and setting is important. When we confront our fear of something that has deeply affected our lives, you have to make sure you feel safe about doing it. And you have people around you that make you feel safe, and also, equally important, understand you. So important that these people understand what it is you're doing and why it is potentially a difficult thing for you to do. But on top of that, understand why it's so important and how big of a deal it is. That they have sympathy and they have empathy and they have compassion. And if you are with those people when you confront this fear, you will feel safe in doing so. I believe that the chances are you're setting yourself up for success at the very least. Now it might not work. Worst case scenario, you still have those people surrounding you, with you, who can extract you from the situation and take you to a place, and you will be calm, and you can calm down, and you can feel good and feel safe about it. Now, whether it's Bill and Carolyn who live at the property, or my friends who I go down with, everyone there understands the nature or the degree of the experience I had and how traumatic it was for me. And it has always been a very good set and setting, even when I have begrudgingly gone out to do certain things at certain times after certain events have been happening, which would seem to indicate some kind of thing is around. And then when we go out and look for it on the property, and under the cover of total darkness, I am, quite frankly, on the verge of a panic attack when it has happened. I can think of a couple instances just this year on different trips where I'm just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. What am I doing? Am I really doing this? Am I really doing this right now? Like the amount of disbelief that I have when I confront one of my biggest fears is almost shocking. It's almost like I've been taken over and I'm on, I clicked on an autopilot, like a brave autopilot button. Anyway, but given at the drop of a hat, I could be removed from this situation and feel good and feel safe about it around the people that I surround myself with in those situations. I wouldn't do it with strangers, people I don't know and people who don't know me. I wouldn't do that because I need more than that. For me, when it comes to the confrontation of such a thing, I need people that I'm familiar with, that I'm comfortable with, that I have shared memories with, that I have that I'm easy around, right? Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. When I think about who I'm going to do mushrooms with and have a psychedelic trip, if I feel like I'm tripping and I look them in the eyes and I wouldn't feel safe, I won't do mushrooms around that person. And that doesn't mean that I feel like they're dangerous or evil. That's not what that means at all, in no way, shape, or fashion. It just means when I'm tripping my balls off and I see and I look at a person, I need to know them, right? That needs to be a person that I feel safe around just because I've known them or I know them in a really good way. I can't look at a stranger in that moment and see their glossy, tripping eyes and not feel like I'm just going to descend into an awful trip in that moment, right? Like I need somebody I know, somebody I care about, someone who cares about me. That's who I need, setting wise. And it's the same way for me when it's confronting fear from the paranormal experiences I've had. I need to feel safe. I need to know the person, and there has to be a mutual love there. And that's what I would recommend for people who have experienced something that's traumatic in the paranormal, that's unexplainable. You need to surround, you don't need, it's very helpful. I would recommend you surround yourself with people who are open-minded, who are also interested and invested in this field, who have experience, who also care for you, have a love for you, and you have a love for them, someone you feel safe around normally. Anyway, we're going to be right back after this last break. And we're back. I didn't realize that I was going to spend the whole time talking about this, but here we are. It happened. We're talking about confronting fear, the traumatic experience of the paranormal and what it can do for us, and how do we move through it? How do we get back to our lives? And more importantly, if we choose so, how do we get back to exploring and investigating paranormal phenomena when exactly that has traumatized us. And, as you've heard me say throughout this, we have a voice in our head that tries to shame us, make us feel ridiculous for even talking about experiencing real trauma from something that cannot be recognized by the mainstream society, the paradigm, the materialism world that we live in, and lots of people who are skeptics. And like I said before, cut the anchor. If you want to, the skeptical anchor needs to be cut so we can freely sail the supernatural sea. I do believe that skepticism has been misassociated with intelligence for way too long. We just can't. We don't buy that over here. We're not living that life anymore. So it has to be around people. You have to have a circle of people that you trust and that you have shared memories with, and that understand what you've been through, have compassion, have sympathy, and have empathy for you. That will be the right kind of crew for the confrontation moment. And the confrontation will have to potentially occur over and over and over again. You can't just, I'll speak for myself here. I can't just confront a fear, certain fears, some of them, yes. Like I'm afraid to jump out of an airplane. I'm not going to do that over and over and over and over again. I'll do it once probably, right? But I was terrified of smoking DMT. I did it once. Will I do it again? Probably. I was terrified of the unknown thing that screamed at me in the dark. I have had to go over and over and over again to confront that fear, specifically at this location. Other locations, I don't feel the same thing. I still feel anxiety. I still have it. I still have residue from that experience affecting me. Like at Mutilation Ranch, when we camped out there, it was Agnes and my buddy Greg, and we were there, and we set up camp. We were out in just the middle of it wasn't a campground. We had to clear out a bunch of brush and stuff, made a fire pit. We created our own situation. And, as soon as the sun went down, there were moments where I felt terrified. I felt scared. I had that anxiety. It was creeping up on me like, here we go again. This is going to happen to me again. Laying in a tent at night, just listening for something to be walking around the tent, expecting to hear footfall, expecting to hear creature noises, anxiety, panic, difficult time falling asleep, right? Usually in that situation, I'll be able to fall asleep once the sun starts coming up. I don't know what it is about the daylight that makes me feel like monsters can't run around, but it's ridiculous. But it for me, it's like the same way inside the house when I'm in Florida. As soon as the sun starts rising, I feel more comfortable falling asleep in their house, even though I know I'm safe. But see, that's the point here. And I think once we confront these fearful things, we understand that, hey, we're okay. Yes, we had the hell scared out of us. But ultimately we're all right. We're okay. We made it through it. At least physically unscathed, usually, right? I don't know your experience, so I don't want to speak for you on that. Psychologically, yeah, we got roughed up pretty good. But murdered, no. Killed, no. Roughed up pretty good, yes. But guess what? We heal as long as we seek out the medicine and the bandages to do so. That's what's important for me, and that's what I think is going to be important in the future on a large scale for humanity. Some of us, I guess, if you want to look at it this way, have been fortunate enough to already have paranormal trauma. So, if in fact things break away that I'm not anticipating and not expecting, and I would be absolutely shocked if they broke this way. But let's say the world of disclosure moving forward with aliens and UFOs, etc., it's not the parade of love that I've been talking about for years on this show, and that it actually is a very scary, dire situation, right? Which, by the way, there's just no way that happens. But let's say it does. I guess I'm lucky that I've already had supernatural, unexplainable, unknown terror, or from a source of the unknown, right? That has crippled me for a time being, and I've moved through it. And now I have a skill set, I have tools at my disposal to help me deal with such things and move forward. And I know that I will go back and confront that fear because I have over and over and over and over again. Therefore, I know that having the shit scared out of me isn't the end of the world. And it's not the end of my life. And that's not to say that something couldn't happen someday out in the woods or on an expedition that makes me hang up my paranormal boots as far as being an investigator goes. I'm not going to be that cocky and act like that's not a possible outcome. I'm not going to say that, right? Some people might be cocky enough, or confident enough, whatever, to kind of say that kind of thing. I'm not that guy. So I'm not going to say that. But moving through, confronting paranormal, supernatural, mysterious fear or anxiety and fright, it's a valuable tool set, I suppose, depending on how you look at the future and the way it may or may not unfold. So I guess maybe we're lucky that we've already experienced this and we've had to deal with it in this way. We've had to move through fear caused by a thing that most people think isn't real. Now, I don't know. Is that a valuable tool to have on your tool belt? It feels like it is. So don't, I implore you to do your best to not feel the shame, to allow yourself to be afraid, if that's what you need to feel for a minute, right? You have your own process. There are certain things that would probably scare me that I would never revisit, right? There's like, if I had the hell scared out of me by a demon, guess what? I'm not going back to confront that demon. That's not something I think I would ever do. Okay, now I have to do it. No, that doesn't apply here, right? So it's not, one way is not better than the other. There's plenty of things in this life that we can be devoting our time, our energy, and our mind to, that we don't have to torture ourselves by going back to something that no longer serves us. That's something very important to keep in mind too, I think, even for myself. For whatever reason, this paranormal stuff, it serves me, right? So I'm not able to move away from it, even though there were parts of me, large parts of me 5 years ago after my experience that I was done with it, right? I was done with it. For whatever reason, I was not allowed to be done with it. It was too much for me. And by too much for me, I mean there's too much excitement, there's too much joy, there's too much love, there's too much mystery, there's too much curiosity for me to let it go. And I knew I couldn't let it go, even though I wanted to in the moment there for a long time. I knew that I just wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be the same person if I did. It's like when my mom told me that I'd regret quitting piano as a kid. I was like, you're crazy. And here I am, getting ready to buy a digital keyboard on Amazon so I can start at a music store so I can keep practicing and relearning piano 35 years later. She was right. I'll regret quitting piano. I'll regret it. Indeed. Okay, I think we did it. Overcome fear. Love is the thing that overcomes fear the most. Love is the way out. I love the paranormal. I love the people I have met doing it. I love the mystery. I love the chase. I love the discovery of heretofore unknown information and magical tidbits and the possibilities that are born from it. Love. If we focus on that, we'll get through to the other side. RyanSingerComedy.com. That's got tour dates. They're popping up on the calendar over there. I hope to see you at a live show somewhere. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing okay. I love you. I hope you love yourself. You deserve it. You're the one who can guarantee that you give yourself love. Don't forget that. So you might as well do it. Even though it can be hard. Don't let that bully in our brain talk shit to us. Anyway, I hope to see you at a live comedy show sometime. Or a paranormal conference. And if not, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.